If you're a BCBA who's been feeling stuck, unfulfilled, or wondering what else is out there, you just found your new favorite podcast. This is No Broke Behavior Analyst, and I'm your host, Sarah Burby. I'm a BCBA, board-certified health coach, certified intuitive eating counselor, 7-figure business owner, speaker, mentor, and most importantly, your biggest hype girl. You already know you can use ABA outside of autism, but nobody ever told you how. Well, at least not until now. I love taking the science you already know and showing you how to turn it into consulting, coaching, courses, corporate training, and income streams that don't require a single session note. Every week, we're talking money, business, mindset, and all the ways your skills can take you places the field never told you existed. Ready to build a life you're obsessed with? Let's get into it. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of No Broke Behavior Analyst. I am really excited for this episode because I'm going to teach you the difference between selling something that you are passionate about, or I should say trying to sell something that you are passionate about, and actually solving a problem. This was a huge mistake that I made when I first started my business. Is I wanted to create a business solving a problem that I was really passionate about. And it's not to say that you can't be passionate about your business. Actually, they're probably going to be more successful in your business if you're passionate about what you're doing. But not everything that you're passionate about is going to make you money. So I want to talk about that difference today. Before I get into that, I just want to say how humbling it has been for me to do this podcast via video instead of just audio. I did not realize how hard it would be. And I think it's just a good reminder of like doing something new, doing something different. I got really comfortable doing this podcast just in audio only, but it's been cool doing it in video. And yesterday I tried to do this episode and I got really frustrated because I was like, oh my gosh, the camera's not working. This isn't charged. I forgot my SD card at home. So I had to go home and then I came rushing back and I tried to record the podcast and it just didn't like flow the way I wanted it to. And it wasn't coming off like authentic. And I was like, you know what? This is a lesson that I should have been learning a while ago of like, sometimes it's just not meant to be. And every single time I try to push something when it doesn't feel right and I just push through just to do it, I end up having to do it again anyway. And that's what happened yesterday. So here I am for the second time recording this episode. And it's just a reminder of when you start something new and different, it's going to feel hard. It's going to feel frustrating. And it's so funny that I do this episode now because last night in our Clinicians Doing More program, we had our monthly Q&A. So we have a session every single week and then once a month it's a Q&A. And some of the girls were like, it just feels so frustrating because things that should feel simple are taking forever. Setting up an invoice feels like it's taking forever. Putting up a lead magnet on my website feels like it's taking forever. And I was like, I know. And you have to remind yourself that you're doing something for the first time. You are learning how to do a skill for the first time. Think about back when we were doing, I don't even know, an assessment in a school or a parent coaching session or writing a treatment plan. The first time we did those things, it took us forever because we had to learn the skill first and then we got fluent in it. So it's the same thing with any skill when you're starting a business, except you're trying to learn all these different skills at one time. So of course it feels hard and it's going to take a long time. That's how I feel about this podcast. Even just today, getting this podcast set up, getting the video set up, getting audio set up, I was like, oh, I think I'm kind of getting the hang of this. It's feeling a little bit easier. And like, that's the whole point, right? To put ourselves in situations where we're doing something new and different to build up that muscle, to build up that resilience, to build up that frustration tolerance. And here I am doing it via video and it's getting a little bit easier. There I say it. So the first thing I want to talk about is people are not paying for our products or offer our service. They are paying for that transformation. So let me give you an example. People are not going to Lowe's or Home Depot and buying a drill. So you know what they're buying? They're buying a hole in the wall so they can put up a shelf, or in my case, this sign. My husband is buying a tool to put up this sign. So I stopped bothering him after work and saying, can you please hang up my sign? Can you please hang up my sign? That's what we're doing. We're buying that transformation. We're buying relief from something. People are not buying a mattress. People are buying a good night's sleep. People are buying the ability to wake up without back pain or waking up feeling well rested. That's what they're buying. So if you say, hey, check out this new mattress, it's going to have X, Y, or Z feature, people aren't going to buy the feature. They're going to buy the transformation of how they can wake up from having the best sleep of their entire life. Same thing with, any sort of software service. I am not buying accounting software. I am buying peace of mind, knowing that when it comes to the end of the year, when I have to figure out, did I pay enough money for my taxes? Do I owe money? Do I do this? Do I that? I have peace of mind because that is not my strong suit. But because I have this software, I'm like, okay, here's my peace of mind that I did everything correctly. I'm not going to go into anybody money. That's what you're buying. So when you think about your product or your service or whatever you are trying to build your business, whatever your business offer is, I want you to start thinking about what is the transformation, not the features in the product. What's the transformation? A lot of times, especially as BCBAs or RBTs, we have so much knowledge and we want to share that knowledge. And like, this is why our offer is so good because it's evidence-based and science-backed. And here's all the reasons. Like, that is good, but it's not going to help you sell your offer. It might actually confuse people. Think about even a sleep training course, right? When you're selling a sleep training course or maybe a nutrition course, a picky eating course, you are selling the transformation. You are selling to the parent or caregiver. I know bedtime has been a struggle for the last X amount of days, weeks, months. What would it be like to have a 20-minute bedtime routine and have your child sleep through the night? So there's no more fighting. There's no more exhaustion. There's no more frustration. That is what you're selling. So yes, the sleep training course, the picky eating course is a product, but you have to start thinking about your transformation. And here's the thing. A lot of people make the mistake of selling or starting something, a business or an offer or a product that they're passionate about, but it's not actually a problem. And it's definitely not something that people will pay money for. And I want to tell you from my own experience what that looked like. So some of you remember when I started my business and I was small changes coaching. And so I shared this before. I struggled with body image. I had disordered eating patterns. I had body dysmorphic disorder, orthorexia, all the things, right? And it took me about a decade to work through all that, to dive deeper into the why of that. And it was a whole process, right? And so I am very passionate about helping women who are struggling with body image. I don't want any other person to have to go through what I went through. And that's how I started my business, is doing intuitive eating coaching. I still coach women in that specialty, in body image and intuitive eating coaching. However, the lesson I learned very early on is that I was trying to proactively treat body image. I was trying to proactively prevent girls from growing up and experiencing body dysmorphic disorder, orthorexia, because I know as a behavior analyst that I can proactively teach these skills to avoid this problem. However, people are not buying things proactively. People are not going to hand over their credit card to you if you're solving a problem that does not exist. People are not going to act on something proactively. They are not going to give you your credit card unless you are solving an immediate problem. And that took my brain forever to compute, because as a behavior analyst, I'm like, oh my goodness, we have all these strategies, all these knowledge. If this person would just do X, Y, or Z, then we wouldn't even have to deal with this problem. It doesn't work this way. Trust me, I've tried for years. I'm like, no, I will be the one person that can get people to buy things proactively. It does not work. They're only going to buy if it's a problem. So back to my story is I created this program, this curriculum for kindergarteners through second grade on body confidence, on how to build a strong self-esteem, strong sense of self-esteem, how to build self-efficacy. I created this curriculum. It was an 8-week program. I spent so much time and energy on this program. More on why that was a bad idea in a second. And I had 2 people come. I went to schools. I went to local coffee shops. I went to churches. I honestly am shocked that even 2 people came to it because it was not a problem. Do you think that parents of kindergarteners are thinking, I wonder if my son or daughter is going to grow up and have struggles with body image? They are not. They're thinking, is the morning getting dressed routine going to be a struggle today? Are my children, are they being nice to each other on the playground? Do they feel loved and cared for and supported? 99.9% of parents are not thinking about body image. And is their child in middle school or high school going to suffer from orthorexia? I thought about it, but it wasn't an immediate problem. So therefore, it wasn't making me any money. And when I was thinking about this in hindsight, my business coach was like, why are you even doing this for K through 2? Why didn't you do this for middle school or for high school? Because at least then it's an immediate problem. These are conversations that parents might be having, is like, oh my gosh, my son or daughter is saying this and I don't know how to respond. That would have been better. But my initial thought, again, as a behavior analyst, is like, well, if I just solve this proactively, then people won't have to experience what I experienced. The other mistake that I made by making this whole curriculum, I was thinking it was so good, I can bring this curriculum to people as my proof of concept. Nobody asked for that curriculum. I spent all this time and energy on something that literally nobody asked for. And that is like rule number 1 is do not create anything unless you know that there is a demand for it. I see so many BCBAs creating courses and resources and products before you have proof that there's actually a need for it. So stop creating things without getting paid for it first. I'm in hindsight thinking that was so silly. But again, you live and you learn, now I've never since that day created something that there wasn't a demand for first. So that's why I'm telling you. And think about what is the actual problem that you're solving. There is a difference between passionate about something. And I've also learned that I can tap into that passion in other areas of my life. I can volunteer for Boys and Girls Clubs. I can volunteer at the YMCA. So it's not like I am no longer passionate about that population. It's just that population is not going to make me money. I can still tap into it in some other way. Now, what I want you to think about is when you are thinking about your offer, your product, when you're thinking about your business, generally there are 3 categories that every offer is going to fall into. So it's going to fall into health, it's going to fall into wealth, and it's going to fall into happiness or connection. Sometimes people will say that as like fitness, sex, love, connection, caring. Doesn't matter how you say it. I want you to think about those 3 buckets. So right now, even if you're just in the idea stage for your business, which of those 3 buckets is your offer falling into? Is it falling into health? Is it making people healthier? Is it falling into wealth? Is it giving people more money or financial security? Or is it helping them with confidence, connection, belonging? If you don't know the answer to that, that's okay. Just think about it. Any single offer, anything that you see in ads, in commercials, it's going to fall into one of those 3 categories. So let me give you an example. Let's think about like a car commercial. So a car commercial, I think of like Ford or I don't know, like trucks always come to mind. I feel like I see commercials of that, or like SUVs. What does that fall into? It falls into that 3rd category of relationships. Why? What are all those commercials showing? They're usually showing someone that is, by the US standards, good looking. They are usually like riding into a mountain and they have that like adventure, the allure. There's someone that's like really cool. And what is that selling? Oh, if you buy this truck, you're going to embody that persona of like really cool and really exciting. Sometimes it's like a couple, they're laughing, the sun is setting as they're driving on a beach in California. That's selling like love and connection in that commercial. Think about Johnson & Johnson if those commercials are still there, like baby soap or baby wash. What is that selling? Usually it's a mom giving a child a bath and it's like the cutest little baby ever and they're laughing and they're giggling. What is that selling? They are not selling soap to you. They are selling that experience of like, oh, well, surely if you buy Johnson & Johnson soap, this is going to be you at bath time. It's not going to be splashes everywhere and a million bath toys and what a typical bathtub looks like. I don't know about in your house. That's what it looks like in my house. But they're selling you that love and that connection through their soap. You can look at any commercial now. That is your homework for this week. Any ad, any commercial, try to figure out which one of those 3 buckets are they using in their selling, in their marketing. Because every single offer is going to come back to that one. We can look at anything in the health and wellness space that we do as at Mind Body Behavior, and a lot of people that go through our coaching program go through, right? It's usually, we have somebody that is coaching women that were late diagnosed with ADHD for nutrition. That goes into health. We have someone that is coaching parents that their children have picky eating habits. What is that going into? That's going into health. Sleep coaching, that's going into health. So we can look at any of these buckets and we will see how all offers are going to tie back to one of those three things. Now, when we think about it, I keep saying this all the time, what problem are you solving? What problem are you solving? You need to make sure that you're solving an immediate problem for someone. And the bigger the problem, the more money someone is willing to pay for it. So for example, think about someone that struggles with chronic back pain. Having chronic back pain is debilitating. Someone is going to pay a lot of money if you can help them get rid of that back pain and go through life every single day, enjoying things they used to enjoy before they started experiencing that back pain. So you want to think about problem, solution, bigger the problem, the more money that you could charge for it. Now, once you have your problem, and this is going to take you time, like it's not like you're just going to wake up one day and be like, here's a problem I'm going to solve, here's a solution. Once you know the problem, then you can start working around your framework and who your ideal client is. And we'll get into our mind, body, behavior in-depth framework of what we teach to all of our BCBAs that are starting their own business. We'll get into all of that in later episodes. But before we do any of that, just keep thinking about what problem am I solving? What immediate problem am I solving? What immediate problem am I solving? And if you don't know, that's okay. Just keep going back to the drawing board. If you're not sure, if you want to help a specific population, how do you figure out what problem you're solving? Start listening more. That is one of the reasons that I freaking love the coaching program that I went through and why I think every BCBA should go through a coaching program, because the skills that you learn in that program truly do generalize into whatever it is you want to do. For example, learning to listen, listening just to listen. To give you an example, probably 5 years ago now, when we were first starting our supervision, actually it was just me. There was no way. When I was first starting the supervision program, I was originally doing supervision for trainees that wanted to get into health and wellness, either personal training or health coaching. However, I noticed a big problem. A lot of people thought that you had to be an RBT in order to accrue hours to become a BCBA. And that bothered me so much because other BCBAs were telling people in different Facebook groups or on Reddit, you want to be a BCBA, you really need that experience. You really need to be in the trenches, on the ground. It bothered me because we were assuming that every single person that wants to be a BCBA wants to work with children or adults with autism in a clinic, which is really the only reason that someone would need to be an RBT. So, okay, there's a problem. People think that they have to quit their job in order to accrue their fieldwork hours. Almost all the time, quitting their job means taking a huge pay cut. And I didn't want everybody that was accruing their hours to assume they had to work one specific setting. That is a recipe for burnout. That is a recipe for being miserable in your job, thinking that you have to work in one specific setting. Sometimes we forget that the science is the science. So I started to think about how we can expand our supervision program outside of just personal training, outside of health coaching. And I was looking at what people are doing. Someone was coming to me and saying, hey, I work in a homeless shelter. Is it possible for me to get my hours here? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it is. Let's talk about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. What were they doing? They were working one-to-one with guests that were homeless. And we were looking at behavior intervention plans on what they could do, goal setting. They were literally doing each week one-to-one sessions where we were working on goal setting and self-monitoring and creating this long-term vision and data collection. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how do people not see this? This is behavior analysis. She was also doing stuff on the OBM side of it. She was looking at staff behavior and filling out intake forms correctly and filling out paperwork on time and what we could do to increase that, looking at what were the skill deficits and how could we change that. So that was a problem I was able to solve. And then I just kept seeing it coming up in all these different settings. And eventually it was like, well, I'm not competent to provide supervision in all these areas, but I can hire a team that is competent in those areas. And that's how we were able to scale our supervision program. Our supervision program now makes between 30 and 40K a month without even doing that much marketing, honestly, because other people are marketing that program for us, because we are able to provide such quality supervision and our trainees are able to graduate with confidence and competence in the area that they want to work in without having to quit their job, without having to start over, without having to work in a job that they don't like. Before I even got to that though, another problem that I saw just from listening, just from being quiet and seeing what was going on around me in Facebook groups. Again, Facebook groups are so good to get some of this information. Is I saw in different Facebook groups, people were asking like, I'm so confused about supervision requirements. I'm so confused about what a restricted hour is, what's an unrestricted hour, concentrated versus supervised. And most people were giving those people that posted those questions really sarcastic answers like, hey, here's a link to the handbook. Don't you think that if someone is asking a question that they probably already looked through the handbook, don't you think if they're asking a question, they just want support in an answer, not a sarcastic, go look at the 90-page handbook? And so I was tired of people like trolling other people on Facebook. Maybe those people didn't have a support system to reach out to. They didn't have a supervisor to reach out to. Maybe their grad school program didn't tell them what supervision was. So I was like, how can I solve this problem that would help me grow my supervision program? I took 20 minutes. I did not prep anything. I opened up Loom on my computer. I pulled up the BACB handbook and I just went through page by page. Hey, here's what this means. Here's what this means. Here's an example of a restricted hour. Here's an example of an unrestricted hour. Here's examples of if you're in this setting, what could count. If you're in this setting, what can count. If you want to accrue this amount of hours, this is how many supervision hours you need. And I just went through and I solved that problem. And then anytime somebody in a Facebook group said, hey, I'm confused about it, which was happening at least once a day, all they would do is say, hey, I actually made this free resource on it. It's a video and a guide. Here you go. If you want it, here it is. Got their email, got their name. And then they were on my email list for supervision. Some of those people then came to Mind Body Behavior for supervision. Some people didn't. That's okay. But now they're on my email list and I can nurture them in some way, shape, or form. Maybe they won't buy our supervision program, but maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, they'll buy something that we're selling. And I was able to solve a problem. So a lot of times we overcomplicate it. I say we because definitely myself included is I overcomplicate the selling process. I overcomplicate what my offer is in simple sells. So just start listening. Just start being aware in conversations with friends, with family members, at the gym, at the grocery store, where whatever it is or whoever it is that you want to help, where are those people hanging out and where can you start listening more closely to what they're describing as a problem, and then think about how your offer or service can solve that problem. Okay. So that is your homework for this week. Think about your offer. Think about what problem it's solving. Think about which one of those 3 buckets it's falling into: health, wealth, or happiness. And just start listening to what people are saying, how other people are describing the problem, and what is the simplest solution that you can provide to that person. Okay, that's all I got for this week, but I will catch you next week. And as always, if you know a BCBA that you think would benefit from this podcast, I would truly appreciate it if you could share it with them. Also, if you like or follow or subscribe to the podcast, it is super helpful if you write a review on the podcast. Apparently, it's super helpful too for algorithm, or I don't even know what. So if you have some time and you enjoyed the episode, if you could follow the podcast, if you could write a review and share it with someone that you think would like this, I would greatly appreciate it. See you next week.